Welcome back. Sean Diddy Combs will be back in court today for a post-trial hearing. The court is formulating a sentencing schedule that's supposed to happen in October. The hearing comes less than a week after Combs was convicted of 2 of the 5 criminal charges in his sex trafficking and racketeering case. CBS News legal reporter Katrina Kaufman has been following every piece of this and joins us now from outside the courthouse, where I think you live by now. You must know everybody's names, you know all the kind of the crews there back with you, you're a little family. So Katrina, what's supposed to happen today? We know that from Diddy's lawyers, they said that he was greeted with cheers back in the detention center after the verdict. So what business needs to be done in the courtroom today?
CBS News anchor Errol, reporting from the courthouse, began his segment by highlighting the latest developments in the ongoing legal saga involving music mogul Sean Combs, also known as Diddy Combs, who was recently convicted on 2 serious charges related to sex trafficking and racketeering, is due back in court today for a significant post-trial hearing. Errol noted that, according to Combs' legal team, when he returned to the detention center after hearing the verdict, he was surprisingly met with cheers and support from other inmates. The anchor remarked on how this reaction stood in stark contrast to the gravity of the charges and the public scrutiny surrounding the trial. During the segment, Errol also reminded viewers that the presiding judge had previously denied Combs' request for bail. He questioned the legal rationale behind that decision and asked whether there remains any real possibility that Combs could be released from custody in the near future. These questions were directed to CBS legal correspondent Katrina Kaufman, who has been closely following every development in the case and was standing outside the courthouse with updates.
Yeah, that's all true, Errol. Today, what's happening is that Sean Combs' team says they want this sentencing to happen as soon as possible. Last week, the judge had tentatively set it for October. They want it much sooner. Last week, Sean Combs' attorney, Mark Agnifilo, was even saying that he'd be willing to waive the ordinary probation report. The judge didn't want to do this, though, Errol. He said the parties here are just too far apart in their viewpoints about this sentencing. The maximum here is 20 years, although last week the prosecution, after doing some calculations, was then estimating more like at least 5 or 6 years. The defense was projecting more like...
CBS legal correspondent Katrina Kaufman provided detailed insight into today's court proceedings, focusing on Sean Combs' legal team's ongoing efforts to expedite the sentencing phase of his trial. Kaufman explained that although the judge had tentatively scheduled Combs' sentencing for October, his defense attorneys are pushing hard to move the date up significantly. In fact, they have indicated a willingness to waive the standard pre-sentencing probation report, a routine but time-consuming step in order to accelerate the process and reach a final judgment as soon as possible. According to Katrina, there is a significant disparity between the prosecution and the defense regarding the appropriate length of Combs' sentence. The prosecution is advocating for no less than 5 to 6 years behind bars, while the defense argues that a sentence closer to 2 years would be more reasonable. Kaufman also highlighted that Sean Combs has already spent 10 months in pre-trial detention, and this time will be credited toward whatever sentence he ultimately receives. Regarding the issue of bail, Katrina clarified that the judge denied Combs' request for release due to concerns about the safety of victims and witnesses involved in the case. 2 letters submitted to the court were particularly influential in the judge's decision. One came from Cassie Ventura, Combs' former girlfriend and a key witness in the trial. The other from Deontay Nash, a close friend of Cassie and a former associate of Combs. Both individuals expressed their deep fears about Combs possibly being released, claiming that they would feel unsafe and at risk of retaliation. Nash specifically stated he was afraid of what Combs might do in response to their testimony. Katrina emphasized that Combs' legal defense did not deny the allegations of violence, but instead characterized them as domestic issues. The judge, however, firmly stated that this framing did not eliminate the risk posed by Combs. Given these considerations, the court ruled that the risk to victims and witnesses was too great, and Combs would remain in custody pending sentencing.
How about this? A story we've been following for months now, and finally kind of understanding what the jury went through. Now to the fallout after that split verdict in the Sean Diddy Combs trial. This morning, we're getting a look inside of that deliberation room.
One juror is now speaking out anonymously, saying that the panel's decision had nothing to do with Combs and his celebrity status. ABC's Rhiannon Alley has the story.
So, as we've already heard, the court found Sean Combs guilty on 2 charges, and now we're gaining deeper insight into how the jury reached its decision. A juror has come forward anonymously to clarify that the verdict had absolutely nothing to do with Combs' celebrity or public image. But the bigger question that now lingers is this: why does someone like Diddy keep getting pulled into the depths of such serious and disturbing legal battles? Just as the dust was beginning to settle from one explosive verdict, a new and equally unsettling development has emerged, offering a rare glimpse into the internal workings of the jury room and the mindset of those who sat through weeks of testimony. Following the split verdict in Sean Diddy Combs' high-profile trial, one juror has broken their silence, insisting that the panel's decision was made with integrity, unaffected by the defendant's fame or influence. Speaking exclusively to ABC News under the condition of anonymity, the juror said, "I found that suggestion highly insulting and belittling to the jury and the deliberation process." They went on to add, "Our decision was based solely on the evidence presented in court and on the law. As it was written and explained to us, we would have treated any defendant the exact same way regardless of who they were." What was the actual outcome of the trial? The 12-member jury, comprised of 8 men and 4 women, ultimately acquitted Combs of the most severe charges, including sex trafficking and racketeering. However, they did find him guilty on 2 lesser but still serious counts related to the transportation of individuals for the purpose of prostitution. These 2 charges stemmed from incidents involving Combs' former girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, and another woman who testified under the pseudonym Jane for privacy and safety reasons. According to the prosecution, both women were transported across state lines and allegedly coerced into sexual activities in exchange for money, acts that formed the basis of the charges on which the jury convicted him. Statement from an alternate juror: even though he wasn't involved in the final deliberation, one alternate juror spoke to CNN and expressed support for the outcome. "I took copious notes throughout the trial," he said, "and after reviewing all of the evidence and testimony, I believe I would have likely reached the same conclusion as the jurors who rendered the verdict. Like video and subscribe YouTube channel for more video."